Hey everyone, welcome back to Dating Decoded. I'm Jake, and I'm here with my co-host, Mia. How's it going, Mia?
Hey, Jake. I'm doing great, thanks. And hey to all our listeners out there. So, today we're diving into something that, well, honestly, it's pretty heavy but super important. We're talking about toxic relationships and how to spot them early.
Right, and this is actually part of our series where we've been exploring different relationship dynamics. For those just tuning in, we've covered things like attachment styles, communication patterns, and you know what's interesting, Mia? We've been getting a lot of questions from our listeners about red flags.
Oh, totally. Like, people are asking, how do I know if I'm in a toxic relationship? Or, my friend is dating someone who seems off? What should I look for? And honestly, Jake, I think a lot of people stay in bad situations because they just don't recognize the patterns.
Exactly, and that's why today we're going to break down 7 specific behaviors that relationship experts have identified as major red flags. Now, before we dive in, I want to be clear. We're looking at this from a psychological perspective, drawing from various sources, including some dating psychology research that, well, let's just say it comes from a pretty analytical approach to relationship dynamics.
Right. And we want to be super clear here. This isn't about gender bashing or anything like that. Toxic behavior can come from anyone, regardless of gender. We're just looking at patterns that research has identified as problematic. And hey, if you're new here, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because we release new episodes every week.
So let's jump right into the first red flag behavior. This one is unfortunately pretty common, and it's called disrespect and public humiliation. Mia, you've actually seen this one up close, haven't you?
Oh, yes. So this is when someone consistently puts their partner down. Like, I had a friend, let's call her Sarah, and her boyfriend would constantly make jokes about her appearance, her intelligence, her career choices, but only when we were all hanging out together.
And that's the key thing. It's the public aspect that makes it especially toxic. According to the research we've been looking at, this behavior serves a specific psychological purpose. It's designed to...
Oh, to embarrass them and lower their confidence, right? Like, if you constantly tell someone they're not good enough, especially in front of their friends and family, they start to believe it.
Exactly. And it also isolates them because, well, think about it. If your partner is consistently embarrassing you in front of your friends, are you going to want to hang out with those friends as much? Probably not. So what happens is the person becomes more dependent on the toxic partner.
That's actually really manipulative when you think about it. And the recommended response, according to the psychology research, is to not tolerate this behavior at all. Like, you should call it out immediately, like, hey, that's not okay to say to me. And if it continues, you need to seriously consider ending the relationship.
Right. And the research emphasizes that respect is non-negotiable in healthy relationships. If someone can't show you basic respect, especially in public, well, that tells you everything you need to know about how they really view you. Now, the second toxic behavior we want to talk about is what psychologists call excessive provocations, or, well, the technical term is a bit crude, but it's basically constant testing.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. This is when someone constantly picks fights or creates drama to test how much you'll put up with. Like, they'll say something mean or do something inconsiderate just to see your reaction.
Exactly. And the psychology behind this is fascinating but disturbing. The person doing this is essentially training their partner to accept worse and worse treatment. It's like, you know how you train a dog? You start with small commands and gradually increase the difficulty.
That's such a disturbing way to think about relationships, but you're right. It's like they're conditioning their partner to accept bad behavior. And I bet most people don't even realize it's happening because it starts so small.
Exactly. It might start with little comments like, you're being too sensitive when you're hurt by something they said. Then it escalates to bigger provocations. And the person being tested often thinks, well, I handled the last thing fine, so I should be able to handle this too.
So what does the research say about dealing with this? Because I imagine a lot of people just, go along with it without realizing what's happening?
The recommended approach is to fail these tests consistently. Like, if someone is deliberately trying to provoke you or upset you, don't engage with the drama. Don't justify, argue, defend, or explain. Just don't participate in their game. And honestly, if someone is constantly testing you like this, that's probably not someone you want to be in a relationship with anyway. That
Makes total sense. Like, healthy relationships shouldn't feel like a constant test, right? Partners should be on the same team, not testing each other's limits all the time. Okay, so what's the third toxic behavior?
Number 3 is manipulation and emotional blackmail. And this one is, it's really common, but people often don't recognize it because it can seem like emotional expression at first.
Okay, give me an example, because I feel like this is one where the lines might be blurry. Like, when does expressing emotions become manipulation?
Great question. So emotional blackmail is when someone uses emotions, usually guilt, fear, or obligation, to control your behavior. For example, if you really loved me, you would, or you're going to make me so sad if you, or even threats like, I don't know what I'll do if you leave me.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not just expressing that you're sad or hurt, it's using those emotions to control what the other person does. That's actually really manipulative when you put it that way.
Right. And the psychology research shows that this creates what's called a trauma bond. The person being manipulated feels responsible for their partner's emotions, which creates this cycle where they're constantly trying to manage someone else's feelings instead of focusing on their own needs.
That sounds exhausting. Like, you'd be walking on eggshells all the time, trying not to upset them. So what's the healthy way to respond to this kind of manipulation?
The research suggests setting clear boundaries about emotional responsibility. You can acknowledge their feelings, like, I hear that you're upset, but you don't take responsibility for managing their emotions. And you definitely don't change your behavior just because they're threatening emotional consequences.
That's really important. Each person in a relationship should be responsible for their own emotions, right? Like, it's okay to share feelings and seek support, but not to use those feelings as weapons. All right, what's number 4?
Number 4 is neediness and clinginess. And this one might surprise some people because, don't we want our partners to want to spend time with us?
Right, but I'm guessing there's a difference between wanting to spend time together and being clingy? Where's the line?
The difference is respect for boundaries and independence. Toxic neediness looks like getting upset when your partner wants time with friends, or constant texting when you're apart, or making your partner feel guilty for having interests or relationships outside the romantic relationship.
Oh, I've seen this. It's when someone basically wants to be their partner's entire world. And I bet it feels flattering at first, right? Like, wow, they really love me and want to spend all their time with me.
Exactly. That's what makes it tricky to spot. In the beginning, it can feel romantic, but what the psychology research shows is that this behavior often stems from deep insecurity and fear of abandonment, and over time, it becomes suffocating and controlling.
So it's not really about love, it's about fear and control. That's actually really sad, both for the person being clingy and the person dealing with it.
It really is. And the recommended response is to maintain your boundaries consistently. Don't give up friendships or hobbies just because your partner is uncomfortable. Healthy relationships should enhance your life, not replace it entirely.
That's such good advice. Okay, we're halfway through our list. Before we continue, just a quick reminder to our listeners. If you're finding this helpful, please give us a like and subscribe. It really helps us reach more people who might need to hear this information.
Absolutely. And if you have questions or want us to cover specific topics, drop them in the comments. We really do read them and they help us plan future episodes. Okay, so number 5 on our list is boundary violations, particularly around flirting with other people.
Oh, this is a big one. And I feel like different couples have different boundaries around this, so it might be confusing to know what's actually toxic versus just mismatched expectations.
That's a really good point, Mia. The research focuses specifically on deliberate boundary violations. So it's not about different comfort levels. It's about someone intentionally doing things they know will hurt or upset their partner.
So, like, if you've had a conversation about what makes you comfortable and they deliberately cross those lines anyway, that's different from just having different natural boundaries.
Exactly. And according to the psychological research, this behavior often serves as a power play. It's a way of saying, I can do whatever I want and you can't stop me. It's also sometimes used to make the partner jealous or insecure as a form of control.
Ugh, that's so manipulative, using someone's emotions against them like that. And I bet when confronted, they probably say things like, you're being too jealous, or it doesn't mean anything.
Bingo! That's exactly the kind of response the research predicts. They minimize the behavior and make the hurt partner feel like they're the problem for having reasonable expectations. The recommended response is to trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is, and to enforce your boundaries regardless of how they react.
Right, because in healthy relationships, people should care about their partner's feelings and want to make them feel secure, not deliberately make them feel bad. Okay, what's number 6?
Number 6 is gaslighting or denying reality. And this one is, honestly, it's one of the most damaging because it makes people question their own perception of events.
I feel like everyone's heard the term gaslighting by now, but can you explain what it actually looks like in practice? Because I think some people might not recognize it when it's happening to them.
Absolutely. So gaslighting is when someone consistently denies or distorts reality to make you doubt your own memory or perception. It might sound like, that never happened, you're remembering it wrong, you're being crazy, or I never said that, even when you know they did.
That's terrifying. Like, if someone keeps telling you that your version of events is wrong, you'd start to doubt yourself, right? Especially if it's someone you trust and love.
Exactly. And the psychology behind this is particularly insidious because it erodes the victim's confidence in their own judgment. Once you start doubting your own memory and perception, you become more dependent on the gaslighter's version of reality.
So it's another control tactic. If someone can make you doubt your own reality, they have incredible power over you. That's really scary to think about.
It really is. The research suggests keeping a journal or documenting conversations, trusting your instincts, and seeking outside perspectives from friends or family. And honestly, if someone is consistently gaslighting you, that's often a sign that the relationship is beyond repair.
That's really important advice. Trust your gut, document things, and don't let anyone make you doubt your own reality. All right, what's our 7th and final toxic behavior?
The 7th one is withholding affection or intimacy as punishment. And this includes both physical and emotional affection. So things like refusing to hug, kiss, have sex, or even just be emotionally available when they're upset about something.
So this is different from just needing space when you're upset. Like, where's the line between I need some time to cool down and using affection as a weapon?
Great question. The difference is communication and intent. If someone says, I'm really upset right now and I need some space to process this, that's healthy. But if someone just shuts down and refuses to engage as a way to punish you or control your behavior, that's manipulation.
Okay, so it's about communication and intent. If someone is using the silent treatment or withholding affection to make you change your behavior or to punish you for something, that's toxic.
Exactly. And psychologically, this creates what researchers call intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes you get affection, sometimes you don't, and you never know which it's going to be. This actually creates a really strong psychological bond, kind of like gambling addiction.
That's really manipulative. So the person ends up working harder and harder to get that affection because they never know when it's coming. That sounds exhausting and demoralizing.
It really is. The recommended response is to not chase after the withheld affection. Don't beg, don't plead, don't change your behavior just to get them to be affectionate again. In healthy relationships, affection should be freely given, not earned through good behavior.
That's such an important point. Love and affection shouldn't be conditional on perfect behavior. Partners should be affectionate because they care about each other, not as a reward system. So, Jake, we've covered all 7 behaviors. What are your overall thoughts on this research?
You know, Mia, what strikes me most is how these behaviors all serve the same basic purpose. They're all about control and power rather than love and connection. And they're often really subtle at first, which makes them hard to recognize until you're already deep in the relationship.
Right, and I think that's what makes this information so valuable. Like, if people know what to look for early on, they can make better decisions about whether to continue a relationship or not. It's not about being paranoid or overly suspicious. It's about being informed.
Absolutely. And what I found interesting in the research is that the recommended responses are all about maintaining your boundaries and sense of self. It's not about trying to fix the other person or change them. It's about protecting yourself and making clear what you will and won't accept.
That's so important. You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control your responses and your boundaries. And honestly, if someone can't respect basic boundaries and treat you with kindness and respect, then they're probably not the right person for you anyway.
Exactly. And I think it's also worth noting that while we focused on these behaviors from one perspective today, toxic behavior can come from anyone regardless of gender. These patterns are about psychology and power dynamics, not about men versus women or any other demographic.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this and recognizing some of these behaviors in your own relationship, please know that it's not your fault and you deserve better. There are resources available. You can talk to a counselor, reach out to friends and family, or contact organizations that specialize in relationship support.
That's really important to emphasize, Mia. And on a lighter note, if you're in a healthy relationship, this kind of information can actually be really helpful for maintaining good relationship habits. Like, it reminds you to treat your partner with respect, communicate clearly, and maintain healthy boundaries.
Totally. Knowledge is power, whether you're single, dating, or in a long-term relationship. Speaking of which, next week, we are going to be talking about the flip side, what healthy relationship behaviors look like. We'll cover things like effective communication, conflict resolution, and building trust.
I'm really excited about that episode. It's going to be much more upbeat and positive. We'll be looking at research on what makes relationships thrive rather than what makes them toxic. And we've got some great examples and practical tips to share.
Before we wrap up, let's do our usual reminders. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really helps other people find us. And if you want to be notified when new episodes come out, make sure to hit that notification bell.
And don't forget to leave us comments. We love hearing from our listeners, whether it's questions, topic suggestions, or just sharing your own experiences. The conversation doesn't have to end when the episode does.
Absolutely. We've actually gotten some really thoughtful comments on our previous episodes that have helped shape our content. So thank you to everyone who takes the time to engage with us. We really appreciate it.
All right, everyone, that's a wrap on today's episode of Dating Decoded. I'm Jake, this is Mia, and we'll see you next week for our discussion on healthy relationship behaviors. Take care of yourselves out there.
Bye, everyone. Remember, you deserve respect, kindness, and love in your relationships. Don't settle for anything less.
Actually, Mia, before we sign off, I want to address something that might be on some listeners' minds. We've spent this whole episode talking about recognizing toxic behaviors in partners. But what if someone is listening to this and realizes they might be exhibiting some of these behaviors themselves?
Oh, wow. That's such an important point, Jake. And honestly, that takes a lot of self-awareness and courage to even consider. I think the first step is acknowledging that we all have the capacity for toxic behavior, especially when we're stressed, insecure, or haven't learned healthy relationship skills.
Exactly. And if someone is recognizing themselves in these descriptions, that's actually a really positive sign because it means they have the self-awareness to change. The research suggests that people who want to improve their relationship behavior should consider therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, which can help identify and change problematic patterns.
And it's important to take responsibility without making excuses. Like, yes, maybe you learned these patterns from your family or past relationships, but that doesn't make it okay to continue them. The people we care about deserve our best effort to be healthy partners. And that sometimes means doing the hard work of changing ourselves.
Speaking of resources, let's get specific for our listeners. If you're in a toxic relationship and need immediate help, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. They have trained counselors who can provide support, safety planning, and local resources.
And if you're not ready to make a call but want to learn more, thehotline.org has tons of information about recognizing abuse, safety planning, and finding local resources. They also have a chat feature if phone calls feel too scary or aren't safe for your situation.
I also want to emphasize that even if someone isn't experiencing extreme abuse, these behaviors still matter. Sometimes people think, well, they're not hitting me, so it's not that bad, but emotional manipulation and psychological abuse can be incredibly damaging. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is.
Absolutely. And remember, toxic relationships often start small and escalate gradually, which is why these early warning signs are so important. Your feelings are valid, your boundaries matter, and you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.
Actually, since we're on this topic, we've gotten several listener questions that relate to what we've discussed today. One person wrote asking about how to help a friend who they think is in a toxic relationship but doesn't seem to recognize it. Mia, what does the research say about that situation?
Ugh, that's such a difficult situation. The research shows that confronting someone directly about their toxic relationship often backfires because they may become defensive or feel like they have to choose between their friend and their partner. Instead, focus on being supportive, asking open-ended questions, and staying connected even when it's frustrating.
That's such an important message. The goal is always to maintain a strong support network and be there for people when they're ready to make changes. All right, everyone, that really is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for listening to Dating Decoded.